That's not the issue. The issue is it seems as though he wants to kind of like exert power and dominance over people who don't really want it.
22 and 49.
Diddy is 49 years old.
Oh, man.
That is a 27-year difference.
Let's be real for a moment. Celebrity drama never ceases to amaze. And if you thought you had heard it all about the Harvey family, buckle up because this ride is about to get wilder than a roller coaster with no brakes. So, here's the deal. We all know Steve Harvey, the king of family-friendly TV, right? The man with the crisp suits, the mustache that could probably hold a world record, and the laugh that's been echoing through living rooms for decades. But what if we told you that behind all the glitz and glam of his public persona lies a story so twisted, it's almost hard to believe? Yeah, it's the kind of story you can't just make up, but apparently, some people don't need to make it up. It's unfolding right in front of us, and the receipts are being dropped like bombs.
The special housing unit is a 24-hour lockdown unit, which means that any movement within that unit is controlled and coordinated, and no inmate moves outside of his cell without being in full restraints, to include leg irons, handcuffs, a belly chain, and at least 2, if not 3 staff members escorting them.
Now, when it comes to Steve's family, things have always been, let's say, a bit complicated. The Harvey family is like a blended smoothie of drama, with layers you have to peel back to even begin to understand. Steve's got his own kids from his previous marriages. Then he married Marjorie, bringing her kids into the mix, and one of those kids happens to be none other than Lori Harvey. And if you've been paying attention to the celebrity dating scene for the past few years, you know Lori's name rings bells. She's been at the center of attention for her high-profile relationships with some of the biggest names in entertainment, from athletes to rappers to A-list actors. But behind all that glam and tabloid headlines, there's a murky undercurrent that's been swirling around, and it's all coming to the surface now.
You know, I think in federal court and for these charges, they would say it's routine, but in the public realm, this is very significant, just from who we associate Diddy being and everything we've seen him do over the decades. Like you said, this is quite the downfall to go from, I mean, we saw the mansions back in March that were raided by the feds. So to go from living in those mansions to being in a...
So how does Katt Williams fit into all this? Well, in classic Katt Williams fashion, he's not exactly the kind of guy who holds his tongue when he's got something to say. Katt has been in the game for a long time, and he's never been shy about spilling the tea, especially when it comes to people he's got a bone to pick with. And let's just say Katt and Steve aren't exactly sending each other holiday cards. There's been bad blood between them for years, and Katt is making sure that everyone knows about it. But this time, he's not just talking about their personal beef. He's digging into the darkest corners of Steve's family life. And the things he's saying, let's just say they make the average celebrity scandal look like child's play.
Is that I'm quite likely to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
Katt recently dropped some serious allegations, and if even half of them are true, it paints a very different picture of Steve Harvey. According to Katt, Steve has been favoring Lori Harvey over his biological children for years. And this isn't just some casual family favoritism like giving Lori the best birthday presents or taking her on fancy vacations. Oh no, it runs much deeper than that. Katt is saying that Steve has been actively pushing Lori into some seriously shady situations. And who's one of the key players in these allegations? None other than Sean Diddy Combs himself.
The rumors are that Diddy was running some kind of Epstein-type deal where he was filming everybody, right?
That's the rumors, yeah. I don't know that there's any proof or anything other than that.
Yeah, you heard that right. Diddy, the music mogul who's been in the game since forever, is apparently involved in this mess too. But before we get into Diddy's part in all this, let's back up a little and take a closer look at the dynamics within the Harvey family, because that's where all this drama really starts to unravel. First of all, let's talk about Steve's relationship with his biological kids. Now, Steve has been married 3 times and he's got a total of 7 kids. But if you've been paying attention, you might have noticed that not all of his kids get the same amount of public attention, or love for that matter. According to Katt, Steve was basically a deadbeat dad for the first 16 years of his son's life. His son even admitted it himself, saying he didn't have his dad full-time in his life until he was a teenager. Imagine that, 16 years without your dad around, and then suddenly he shows up and acts like everything's cool. That's gotta sting.
And I hung the phone up, I went upstairs, I said, Marjorie down, I said, Marjorie, we got a problem. When I explained it to her, Marjorie started crying.
And it doesn't stop there. Steve apparently didn't even show up to the high school graduation of his twin daughters, which, let's be honest, is a pretty big milestone. Someone who went to school with the twins spilled the beans, saying that Steve was nowhere to be found at the graduation, and it wasn't exactly a secret. But guess who Steve did make time for? That's right, Lori. It seems like whenever Lori's name is involved, Steve is all hands on deck. He's been taking her on those famous father-daughter dates, giving her advice on how to navigate relationships, and even helping her with what Katt describes as full-blown training sessions on how to win over high-profile men. Yeah, it sounds a little off, doesn't it?
To like check me and be like, hey, like, what you doing? You good? You need to shake out of it. And maybe be like, okay, yeah, you're right, I'm tripping, I'm good.
And let's talk about those training sessions for a second. Word on the street is that Steve's been giving Lori pointers on how to land and keep powerful men, and not in a here's how to respect yourself and find someone who treats you well kind of way. According to Katt, these sessions were more like a blueprint for how to climb the social ladder by dating the right guys. And if you look at Lori's dating history, it kind of makes sense. From Michael B. Jordan to Future to Trey Songz's, Lori's been linked to some of the biggest names in the game, and every relationship seemed to give her a bigger spotlight. But behind all that success, it seems like there was a mastermind pulling the strings, Steve Harvey.
Didn't Diddy's son date her?
Yes! That cannot be true.
Diddy and Lori Harvey, they're heating things up in Italy. Notice her arm is on the back of his chair.
Shocking!
Now, here's where things get really messy. Katt Williams claims that Steve didn't just stop at giving Lori advice. He allegedly went so far as to groom her for these high-profile relationships. And if you're wondering why he didn't do the same thing for his other daughters, well, Katt's got an answer for that too. According to him, Steve figured that Lori had a natural charm and beauty that would make her more successful in the dating world than his biological kids. Ouch. Imagine growing up knowing that your dad is favoring someone else's child over you, not because they're smarter or kinder, but because they're more marketable. That's gotta hurt.
Steve and I have been drilling this into our daughters.
But the favoritism didn't just cause tension between Steve's biological kids and Lori. It also created a full-blown sibling rivalry. Sources have said that the tension in the Harvey household has been building for years, with Steve's other kids growing more and more resentful of all the attention Lori was getting. It's not just jealousy, it's about being sidelined in your own family. One source even said he did the right thing adopting Marjorie's kids and loves them like his own, but there's a lot of dissension among the blended Harvey clan. And that dissension has only gotten worse as Lori's star has continued to rise.
What's the best advice they've given you?
Just remember that you're the prize at all times.
Boom.
Best advice.
When it comes to dating, Lori ain't got a damn thing. I got it.
Now, let's get back to Katt Williams, because this man is not holding back. Katt is saying that Steve's favoritism towards Lori wasn't just about family bonding. It was about using Lori's beauty and charm to further his own agenda. He claims that Steve was basically pimping out Lori to the big shots in the industry, pushing her into relationships with powerful men to boost his own clout. And guess who was one of the first names to come up in this? Who was one of the first names to come up in this twisted game of matchmaking? Diddy.
I think it's more interesting that Steve Harvey's there.
Yeah, Diddy's involvement in all this is where things go from messy to downright bizarre. Remember when Lori and Diddy's relationship made headlines back in 2019? People were shocked, and for good reason. First of all, the age gap was massive. Lori was 22 and Diddy was almost 50.
A 49-year-old truck driver?
If he was a good truck driver,
how do you think that conversation would go?
But that wasn't even the weirdest part. The real kicker was that Lori had allegedly been linked to Diddy's son before she started dating him. So not only was there a huge age gap, but there was also this weird situation where Lori had reportedly dated one of Diddy's sons and then moved on to Diddy himself. Talk about awkward.
Replete with very, very serious and salacious allegations, including allegations that Combs had cameras throughout his...
But according to Katt, there's more to the story than just awkward family dynamics. He claims that Steve Harvey was the one who pushed Lori into Diddy's arms in the first place. Yeah, you heard that right. Katt is saying that Steve practically orchestrated the whole relationship, seeing an opportunity to get his daughter linked to one of the biggest names in the entertainment industry. And if that sounds wild, well, that's just the tip of the iceberg. Let's not forget that when Lori and Diddy started dating, it was only a few months after Diddy's ex Kim Porter passed away. Lori had known Kim and had even posted a heartfelt tribute to her on Instagram after her passing. So, for Lori to suddenly turn around and start dating Kim's ex so soon after her demise, it raised more than a few eyebrows. But according to Katt, Lori didn't have much say in the matter. He claims that Steve saw an opening after Kim passed away and pushed Lori into the relationship with Diddy for his own gain. And if that's true, it's pretty disturbing.
And Stacey, you say today's indictment reads like a mob indictment. What was most shocking to you of all these allegations?
Yeah, the fact, Jake, that the government in this indictment presented evidence alleging that Sean Combs was running a criminal enterprise.
But here's the real kicker. Steve and Marjorie weren't just aware of the relationship. They were apparently all in. Photos surfaced of Steve, Marjorie, Lori, and Diddy vacationing together, and the whole situation just seemed bizarre. You'd think Steve would have some reservations about his daughter dating a man nearly 3 decades older than her. But according to Katt, Steve was fully supportive of the relationship. In fact, Katt claims that Steve didn't care about the age gap or any of the other red flags. All he cared about was the fame boost that came with having Lori linked to a big name like Diddy.
That this is the end of the Diddy story as we know it.
But it gets even darker. Katt is alleging that Diddy's relationship with Lori wasn't exactly what it seemed on the surface. According to Katt, Diddy has a history of pushing his girlfriends into some pretty disturbing situations, and Lori was no exception. Katt claims that Steve knew exactly what kind of man Diddy was, but he didn't care. As long as Lori was with Diddy, Steve was happy to turn a blind eye to whatever was going on behind the scenes. And if you think this is where the story ends, think again. According to Katt, Diddy wasn't the only powerful man that Steve tried to link Lori to. Apparently, there were other big names on Steve's radar, and he was willing to do whatever it took to get Lori in the mix with them.
You know, what I wanted at 21, I don't want at 25.
Right.
I don't even know her anymore.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right, let's pick up where we left off, because this story is far from over. We talked about Katt Williams throwing some wild allegations about Steve Harvey allegedly trying to link Lori up with powerful men in Hollywood. And one of the most jaw-dropping claims involved none other than Jay-Z. Now, y'all know Jay-Z is hip-hop royalty, married to one of the most powerful women in the world, Beyonce. So the idea that Steve might have been maneuvering Lori into Jay-Z's circle is insane, right? But Katt didn't stop there. He suggested that Steve wasn't just pushing Lori towards Jay-Z for her own benefit. He had his own agenda. According to Katt, it wasn't about romance at all. It was all about making connections, gaining influence, and boosting Lori's profile at whatever cost. Because let's be real, being linked to a man like Jay-Z would solidify Lori's position in Hollywood in a way few other names could. But even just whispering Jay-Z's name in this kind of scandal is playing with fire, considering how fiercely private he and Beyonce are. The whole thing sounds too wild to be true, right? Well, whether or not Steve ever tried to nudge Lori toward Jay-Z, what we do know for sure is that the Harvey family drama with Lori's high-profile relationships is a never-ending saga. And while the Jay-Z allegations might seem shocking, they're just one piece of the puzzle. Because the real focus of this story keeps circling back to another industry giant, Diddy.
Now, if the government is going to mandate that they are responsible for your well-being, they have to ensure the safety of your well-being.
And that's where things take a seriously dramatic turn. You see, for a long time, Diddy and Lori's relationship was shrouded in mystery, and people couldn't stop talking about how unusual the pairing seemed. A 28-year age gap, a dating history that reportedly included Diddy's own son. Yeah, the whole situation was definitely raising eyebrows. But while it looked strange from the outside, Katt Williams is claiming that Diddy and Lori's relationship was even darker behind the scenes than anyone imagined. And now, recent news has shed an entirely new light on everything Katt's been saying. Because, Diddy is no longer just a Hollywood powerhouse with a complicated reputation. He's now at the center of a legal storm. Yup, you heard that right. Diddy, who was always considered untouchable in the industry, has found himself behind bars. The latest reports are that he's been arrested and is facing some seriously heavy charges. And let us tell you, this changes everything. All those rumors and whispers about Diddy's shady behavior, they're not just gossip anymore. They're part of an unfolding scandal that's shaking up the entire entertainment world.
Posted yesterday all over our social media pages, Cassie filed a lawsuit in New York City against Diddy.
Yikes.
She's claiming she was stuck in a decade-long cycle of abuse.
So, what exactly happened? Well, word on the street is that Diddy's arrest was linked to some shocking allegations involving mistreatment and misconduct. We're talking accusations that go way beyond what anyone expected, involving people close to him and a lifestyle that's way more complicated than we ever knew. While the details are still coming out, sources close to the situation say that this isn't just a small legal hiccup. Diddy could be facing a long time away from the spotlight, if not worse. And this has everyone who's been connected to him, Lori included, suddenly thrust into the public eye in a whole new way. Now, let's rewind for a second and remember how all of this ties back to Lori. Katt has been saying for years that Lori's relationship with Diddy was anything but ordinary. According to him, Steve allegedly played a big role in pushing Lori into Diddy's circle, knowing full well about his reputation. And what's Diddy's reputation? Exactly. Even before these new charges, there were always rumors swirling around him about his private life and how he treated people in his inner circle. But because Diddy is Diddy, those rumors never seemed to stick.
All lies will be exposed. That's all. And anyone who takes that the wrong way, know why they take it the wrong way.
And honestly, a lot of people brushed it off. We mean, this is a man who's been at the top of the music industry for decades, shaping careers and creating hits. So most of the public didn't think much of the rumors. But now that he's been arrested, suddenly all those whispers and quiet accusations don't seem so far-fetched, do they? And the fact that Lori was right there, connected to him during one of the most controversial periods of his life, it makes you wonder what was really going on behind closed doors.
This has to be a 100% culture shock. I can't imagine living.
But here's the kicker. Lori isn't just some bystander in all of this. The timing of Diddy's arrest is making people dig deeper into her time with him. And now, folks are starting to ask some serious questions about what she might seen or experienced while they were together. Did Steve know the full extent of what was happening between them? And if he did, why didn't he step in? Katt Williams has been saying for ages that Steve looked the other way when it came to Lori's relationships, as long as it benefited his brand. But now that Diddy's facing serious charges, it's hard not to wonder if Steve's so-called advice for Lori might have been even more harmful than we realized.
Clearly, there is a criminal investigation underway, and that they believe that there would be evidence of crimes in one or both of these homes.
And let's not forget that the rumors about Diddy's lifestyle have been swirling for years. Remember how Cassie, Diddy's longtime partner, finally came forward with some explosive allegations about what went down during their relationship? She claimed that Diddy's private life was nothing short of chaotic, and now people are wondering if Lori might have been caught up in some of that chaos too.
That he controlled every aspect of her life. He is accused of frequently beating her and would hide her in hotel rooms for days until the bruising and signs of abuse were gone.
See, when Lori and Diddy were first linked together, a lot of people were skeptical. Some thought it was a publicity stunt, while others believed Lori was just having fun and enjoying her time with an industry icon. But according to Katt, there was always something more to it, something Steve knew about but chose to ignore. And now, with Diddy's arrest, Katt's accusations are starting to make a lot more sense. Was Steve really just a protective stepdad who wanted to see his daughter succeed, or was he willing to turn a blind eye as long as it meant keeping Lori in the spotlight?
And a lot of the evidence, alleged evidence, that's been gathered in this case was from those two raids that were conducted on his personal homes in Miami and Los Angeles. And the indictment names the things seized that he allegedly made videos of these performances that have been named freak-offs.
The situation gets even messier when you consider that, according to Katt, Lori's relationship with Diddy wasn't just a random fling. He claims that Steve allegedly positioned her to be with Diddy at a time when Diddy's reputation was already questionable. Think about it. Diddy was nearly 50, with a history of complicated relationships, and he had just lost his ex-partner, Kim Porter, who Lori reportedly admired. So when Lori started dating Diddy just a few months after Kim said in passing, people were scratching their heads. But if Katt's telling the truth, Steve didn't see any red flags. He saw an opportunity.
Well, either way, if you got to run to a private island because your evil doings is doing so much and they storming your house, it's one of these.
But now that Diddy's facing charges, all those so-called opportunities are looking a lot more like traps. And Lori's right in the middle of it. The media's been going wild ever since news broke of Diddy's arrest, and suddenly, Lori's time with him is being scrutinized like never before. Pictures and videos of them together are making the rounds again, and people are starting to pick apart every little detail. Remember those father-daughter-like trips Steve took Lori on? Well, some are saying that Steve knew exactly what he was getting Lori into when he allegedly pushed her toward Diddy.
And in this lawsuit, he claims that essentially P. Diddy was the Epstein of the rap industry.
And the plot just keeps thickening, because with Diddy's current situation, it's not just Lori's past that's under the microscope. It's her future, too. If these charges stick, Diddy's career could be in serious trouble, and anyone associated with him is going to feel the ripple effect. But the real question is, what's Steve's next move going to be? He's been radio silent about all of this, which is pretty unusual for a man who loves to share his opinions. Is he keeping quiet because he's worried about what else might come out? Because let's be real, if there's one thing Steve's been consistent about, it's staying in control of his image. But if it turns out that he really did push Lori into these high-profile but questionable relationships, it could destroy his entire brand. And for someone who's built a career on giving relationship advice and portraying himself as the ultimate father figure, that's a scandal that could cost him everything.
All right, I gotta take some time to address this here.
As for Lori, she's been keeping a low profile ever since Diddy's arrest, which only makes people more curious. What does she know? What did she see? And most importantly, was she really making her own choices? Or was someone else pulling the strings? With Diddy's legal battles just beginning, we're bound to find out a lot more about what went down during their time together. But now that all the tea has been spilled, what do you think? Do you believe Katt's claims that Steve Harvey might push Lori into these high-profile relationships for his own benefit? And with Diddy now behind bars, could more shocking revelations about his past relationships come to light? Let us know what you think in the comments below, because trust us, this drama is far from over. Until next time, stay curious